Sorry, I didn't get what?
Ok. Boa tarde, pessoal. Sejam bem-vindos. Eu sou a professora Juliana Leme, sou diretora aqui de Cooperação Internacional da UCANI. Nós vamos iniciar, então, esse webinar com o senhor Rodrigo Delgado. Ele é o diretor executivo, né, do Consórcio CALDO, que é um consórcio com universidades canadenses. E ele vai, então, falar de oportunidades para pesquisadores canadenses poderem visitar o Brasil com financiamento do Canadá. Né? Então, é uma oportunidade dos docentes da USP poder receber pesquisadores do Canadá com dinheiro canadense, né? Sem ter um aporte financeiro brasileiro. Então, vou passar para o Rodrigo. Thank you for staying with us and present these opportunities for Canadian research, stay with USP research. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. So can you hear me correctly, right?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay, fine. So happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And it is a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon talking about some opportunities for Canadian professors. First of all, I'm going to explain a little bit about the Canadian professors connecting with, in this case, with professors from George University in Sao Paulo. But also, I'm going to talk a little bit later about the Emerging Leaders in the Americas program, the ELAP scholarship. That is another important tool offered by the government of Canada to support international students, mostly research students that could come to our universities to do research internships. So I'm going to start sharing my just a few slides to provide you a little bit of background about what is CALDO. So could you please confirm when you will see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So very briefly, I'm gonna mention and explain you exactly what CALDO is and what CALDO does. So CALDO is a consortium of top Canadian research universities working only in Latin America. We have been working in the region for the last almost 15 years. Brazil, indeed, is our oldest partner in this consortium. We signed the first agreement back in 2011 with CMPQ and then with CAPES to, at the time, to host students that they were coming under the program Science Without Borders to our universities here in Canada. So CALDO began working with Latin American universities to do initially the support and providing some funding or co-funding with international partners such as CMPQ or CAPES and other agencies, similar agencies in the region as well, to host research students interested in coming to do research masters or PhD to our universities here in Canada. Since that time up to now, CALDO has been growing along with 14 different countries. Right now, we are a group of 10 and growing universities. Most likely in the following months, we are going to be 11, 12 universities working together in Latin America. We work from Mexico down to Chile. And what CALDO does basically is to develop partnerships with funding agencies from the government of Latin America, and not only at this moment with governments, institutions. In some cases, we do agreements, as I was mentioning before, with institutions such as CMPQ or CAPES at federal level, but also we have partnerships and agreements at state level, mostly in countries such as Brazil or Mexico in the region. But at the same time, we do have agreements with other institutions that are supporting students to go to study abroad, such as the case of Colfuturo in Colombia, FIDER in Mexico, and even right now, several of our universities have been signing agreements with Instituto Trayectorias in Brazil. So the main goal is to support and to co-finance that students from different countries in Latin America could come to our universities to do research masters or PhD. Additionally, we support a lot of collaboration partnerships between our top universities here in Canada and the top universities in Latin America. That is the reason why we were just a couple of months, well, not even a month ago exactly, I will say at this moment, we were in Brazil visiting different universities as part of our mission to Florianopolis to the FAUBI conference. So we were there connecting with several colleagues from different, not only Brazilian universities, but Latin American universities. But of course, we spent a couple of days in Sao Paulo connecting with not only University of Sao Paulo, but also Unicamp, Unesp, and other universities in the Sao Paulo area as well. The idea is to connect researchers, connect students interested in working with our researchers here in Canada, and at the same time to facilitate mobility of graduate students from both sides. So we are very interested in supporting our students to go more to Brazilian universities, and at the same time Brazilian students could come to our universities. But in particularly today we are talking about how we can facilitate that collaboration as well happening with the professors, so professors that could be working uh, with our universities here in Canada, with universities in Brazil, particularly with your university here in Sao Paulo. On top of that, we support and we provide a lot of information to students interested in coming to our universities for full program, master's or PhD, but at the same time, students looking for short-term research internships that could be from 3 months up to 1 year. And that is something, of course, that we are very interested in keep working with your university. And that is part of the conversations that we were holding with Professor Juliana and Paulo when we were in Sao Paulo a month ago. And at the same time, we work more and more, not only just with universities, but also with public sector, private sector, in, and, and universities, of course, as well, in providing short-term training programs in different topics, something that is becoming a very high demand kind of training, the micro credentials in topics of high interest for instance, Brazil, Canada, and at the same time supporting language training as well. Just to give you an idea of the universities that are part of the consortium today, so as you can see, there are so many important Canadian universities being part of our consortium, covering different provinces here in Canada. And of course, depending on the different provinces and universities, different research strengths. So right now here I am talking from the University of Ottawa, which is exactly, I am in this building, probably in exactly one of those windows over there talking to you. This is in downtown Ottawa. And we have several universities working on different research capabilities that are, of course, of a lot of interest for your different departments and with important universities such as University of Sao Paulo or your other colleagues from Sao Paulo State. Certainly, there are so many things where we can collaborate in topics such as artificial intelligence, energy, quantum, nanotechnology, and so on. So many, many, many things with, of course, are very important for us. So the universities that are part of the consortium right now, as I said, we're still growing with more universities, are University of Alberta, University of Ottawa, McMaster University, University of Waterloo, Queen's University, Brock, Memorial, McGill, New Brunswick, and Ontario Tech. Something that I didn't mention before, but is quite important for us is overall here at the University of Ottawa, is that Canada, don't forget please, that is a bilingual country. So officially we are a bilingual country. So a lot of our education is not only in English, but also in French, and particularly here at the University of Ottawa, the the many of the programs are taught in both languages. So that's exactly why it is very important to have that information as well, because we know that especially from Brazil, we have a lot of students that are not only are coming here to connect and to work with our researchers in English, but also in French. Okay, so here is basically just how to connect with us. Right now, I'm going to move. I don't want to spend too much time here in the explanation about Caldo, but just here you can get some information about our consortium and our universities. But right now, I'm going to move to the most important information that I want to share, which is the.
Oh, sorry. I think you will need to share the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. No problem at all. I can share that information without any problem. So right now I'm going to share information. I don't know if you are able to see the web page. No? Okay. So 1 second, please. So I'm going to connect to here again. Okay. So one second, please. Okay. Here's going to work. So right now I'm moving here. So can you see now?
Yes, now.
Okay. So this is exactly the program that we were just discussing. So the name of the program is Faculty Mobility for Partnerships Building Program. This is a Government of Canada program, and the purpose of this program is basically to do exactly what the name says, to build partnerships. But the beauty of this program in relation to you in Brazil, and of course in Latin America overall, is that this program is only for Latin American universities. So this is a clear demonstration of the interest of the government of Canada to build stronger partnerships with collaborators, with researchers, with top universities such as your university in Brazil and in Latin America, of course, with our top universities here in Canada. So the purpose is to build the partnerships, and the goal is to connect professors, researchers from the countries in the region. So the way that it works basically is that the professors in your university could extend an invitation to some of our professors here in Canada to go to Brazil and to spend between 3 to 8 weeks teaching or conducting a research in Brazil in this case. As you can see, Brazil is part of the program, you know. So that's basically the main purpose, and the the crucial part here in terms of the information is that basically we need to facilitate the connection to identify potential collaborators that you have already in Canada, or in other cases, you want to develop a new partnerships, a new collaboration with some of our universities, or just to open up a discussion in a new topic of interest for your university, for your researchers, for your department. And we can facilitate as well that connection with our professors here in Canada. So that's the way that we can support making that communication and connection happen. Once that communication is already in place, basically what we do is that we need to define, or you guys, you need to define with our professors when will be a good timing, in this case, thinking ahead for 2027, for going, in this case, going to Brazil and spend there between 3 to 8 weeks, teaching or doing some kind of research. And once everything is clear, you have to prepare a formal letter of invitation to our professors, who is the one with that letter of invitation that is going to submit the application in front of the platform of the government of Canada. So that's the logic, and that's the way that is going to work. Basically, as you saw here at the beginning, there is the call for 2027, 26 to 27 is already closed, but it's going to open again because it does yearly in September. Usually that is the time that is going to be open, okay? And usually it lasts open for max 2 months. That is the reason why it is important to start connecting and making those conversations happen from now on. As you know, take time to make those connections, to identify the right person, to identify the right university, but at the same time, keep in mind that here in Canada, starting, I will say, next week, is vacation time, so it is summertime here, so a lot of universities are just in summer season, and in some cases with some courses, some program, but it's a lot of people are at this time taking vacation, so it makes a little bit harder to get connections ready with professors. So that is the reason why when talking with Juliana, we were saying that it's important to start connecting in advance. If we are going to help you in connecting with our professors, we can do it without any problem. But at the same time, it is important to take a lot of time ahead just to be sure that at the time when the call is going to be open, you are ready with the letter of invitation. You are ready in terms of the definition of who is going to be the person available to go, because that is something else that could happen. So a lot of times, and we have seen a lot of situations when there is a lot of interest between both parties to do something together, but unfortunately, because of some schedule constraints from one side and the other side, it doesn't work, or because there are some, I don't know, some issues regarding travel, conference, and so on, that finally makes it impossible to coordinate on a specific time that could work for everyone. So having said that, it is important to make that connection happen in advance, just to see if that's the case, that someone is not available, you can start connecting with somebody else. So that is the reason why another recommendation is that don't just stick with one person. Try to identify a couple of potential connections or professors that could be of interest for you to invite, because that is exactly what we have seen in the past in terms of situation with professors going to different countries in Latin America. In terms of money, the idea is that, as Juliana was mentioning at the beginning, basically the money is coming from the Canadian side. So the professor is going to apply to this scholarship. And if the professor, it's a scholarship, so it's not money that has been guaranteed, you know. But basically, the the money is going to be given to the professors based on the number of weeks and the time that is going to be there, with a maximum of 7,000 for up to 8 weeks. So basically, everything is pretty much covered. As you can see here below, the eligible expenses are, of course, visa, transportation, health insurance, living expenses, and so on. So that's basically the logic. And here as well in the website, you will see all the information regarding the application process, which is something that the universities here in Canada will need to do. But the criteria, it is important to keep in mind in terms of what are going to be the potential activities to create advanced or to create or advance institutional partnership between the home and host institution, 50%. In addition to that, evidence of the plan partnership building activity will be carried out successfully, 25%, and the quality of the proposal. So that is the reason why it is important as well to try to open up new opportunities of communication with new department, with new people, instead of just reusing with colleagues that probably you have been working on doing things together, unless that there is something completely new as part of the proposal and you are, let's say, I don't know, planning a seminar in Brazil with that professor that is going to be able to go there, or you are going to prepare an application to submit for getting some research collaboration. So that's basically the way that it works. And as I mentioned before, usually it opens for up to 2 months. So last year was open from September up to November. And that's the way that it works, arriving to the host country. So in this case, if you are applying or one of our professors is applying based on your invitation from your side, in that case, that professor could start working not earlier than April 1st, in this case, 2027. Okay? So that's overall what is the purpose of this initiative from the government of Canada. Of course, this information will be shared with you as well as part of the presentation, but this is an important tool that has been working very well. And of course, I think that there are a lot of very interesting opportunities to connect with different researchers, professors, and also it is a perfect way to start opening a collaboration for uh, student mobility overall at graduate level. So I'm gonna stop here for now. And I don't know, Juliana, if you want to make a comment or you want to take some questions before moving to the final scholarship as well, that is the ELAP scholarship.
Okay, thank you, Rodrigo. Yes, eu vou pedir para as pessoas que tiverem alguma dúvida em relação a esse programa que o Rodrigo comentou, para mandar para o e-mail alcane@us.br. Nós vamos receber todas as dúvidas, vamos encaminhar, né, para ele. Qualquer dúvida. Rodrigo, I request for you the presentation, if you can share after the meeting, the slides, and maybe in our website also, okay? And
Absolutely.
everybody can see all the information. And now you would like to say about the ELAP program.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to share right now this information as well. your work now. Okay, so right now, can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is another tool of the government of Canada that is an excellent tool for supporting students, in this case, not faculty, student mobility between Latin American countries and Canada. So this is an incoming scholarship to Canada, and the name of the program is Emerging Leaders in the Americas program. This is a program that probably some of you know already, or even some of you have sent students through this program, but this is a very kind of signature program that we have here in Canada that has been working very well with Latin America. So this is a scholarship that is similar to the previous one, only for Latin America. And the idea is to facilitate that students coming from the region could come to our universities to do two things. One, if the university, in this case, University of Sao Paulo, or your specific department, has an agreement with some of our universities, and there is a mobility, kind of traditional mobility agreement, the students could come here and do courses, you know? So follow a semester here in Canada with our universities and apply to get funds from this scholarship for the time that those students will come to our universities here. But at the same time, there is another option, which is basically do a research internship. And in that case, the students, they don't necessarily will need to have an agreement, or your institution not necessarily will need to have an agreement for sending students, especially with graduate students, masters or PhD students. The important thing in that case is that the professor that is going to host the student must accept, you know, and the international office of our universities here in Canada, along with the professor, must approve the, the student coming from some of your universities to do research in some of the labs with any of our professors here in Canada. So I will say that in the last years, that has been the model that has been used the most, because certainly it is a perfect way to facilitate communications, not only and research mobility, not only just for students, but also for professors as well, because it allows that professors from both sides get connected under the work of one specific student. So that is exactly a perfect combination, instead of just maybe having students coming to our universities and taking some courses, but not necessarily staying with some specific connection already in place between two professors, one in this case from Sao Paulo and one from Canada. So the idea, as I said, is basically to use this tool that is a scholarship that works for undergraduate students and graduate students. And basically, there are some specific projects, you know, that right now, and for some of you that probably are familiar with this program, up to last year, this program basically was just for kind of individual applications. So one student from your department or your university was applying to do courses here, to take a traditional mobility exchange program, or doing research. In this case, since this year, On top of that, which is still in place so that students could apply directly, there is the option to do projects, projects between the universities. So, for instance, University of Sao Paulo, the Faculty of Engineering, Faculty of Health, Faculty of Dentistry, it doesn't matter which faculty, could make the connection with some of our faculties here at some of our universities and to define a project, you know, that could be presented by our universities, the Canadian universities, in front of the government of Canada to apply for a program that will not exceed 150, as you can see there, for bringing, for instance, students to our universities here and being part of the project that will be, of course, of interest for the institution. So this is something that has been very well received here in our universities because is sometimes it is a perfect way right now to make stronger partnerships, stronger connections with some specific universities, some specific institutions that could be of interest due to, research strengths, a perfect combination in terms of the topics that the universities are working with, and so on. In terms of the time, there are differences between undergrad or graduate students. If we're talking about undergraduate students, the maximum time that the students could come here is up to 4 months, and the amount is 8,600. So that's basically the, the, the amount. If we talk about if we talk about the students, coming for master's degrees or PhD, there are two ways. One, if it is up to 4 months, the amount is exactly the same, 8,600, or up to 6 months with an amount of 12,400. So the expenses which are eligible are basically similar to what was discussed before. So transportation, scholarships, and so on. So everything that is going to be involved in the trip of those students. And of course, in this case, if the students are coming for a traditional mobility exchange program, because there is an agreement between the parties, the fees are waived, and in that case, there is no additional fees that the students need to pay coming here. And also, if the students are coming for a research internship, in that case, the situation is similar as well, because basically the students are coming to do just research and working in a lab with colleagues from, I don't know, master's degrees, undergrad, or PhD as well. So that's basically the logic how the system works. In terms of the application, basically the application opens once a year, and the institution, the Canadian institution, is the one applying on behalf of your students or on behalf of the project that has been defined with your institution or your department. And in terms of dates, most of the time, the program has been open, the scholarship, the platform, between the middle end of December, or this year was a little bit late, was opened in January, and that it was the reason why it was closed in at the end of March, March 31st, 2026. So just to say that this is something sometimes a little bit tricky with Latin America as well, because most of the countries in Latin America, summertime is not July, August, such as us here in Canada, but it's January, February, which is exactly the most important time for the application of those scholarships. So this is also a scholarship that requires a, a lot of work in terms of connecting. One, if it is only for individual students, connecting ahead of time with the right researcher, with the right professor for finding out, for instance, if it is going to come the students to work in a lab with that specific professor, or to make the connection through your international office for setting up some specific applications, sorry, for students coming to do a traditional mobility program. In that case, please think ahead at least, I will say, 3 4 months. So because always it takes a lot of time, and usually the connections ideally should start in September-ish, and in that time you will have enough time to have even the additional time required in case that some of the professors that your students are looking for are not available for hosting the student, and the students will need to start looking for somebody else. So making the connection with the previous scholarship, the Faculty Mobility for Partnership Building Program, that is a perfect combination of both scholarships. So the professors that potentially could be connected through your departments for going to Brazil could be perfect professor for hosting or becoming sponsors of your students at the universities where your students could come to do research in most cases for masters and PhD. And that's exactly what we are looking for through this specific scholarship that is called Emerging Leaders in the Americas program. So I think that I have pretty much covered everything right now, Juliana, and I don't want to extend more than that because I know that everybody's quite busy and especially this time of the year. So just I want to be mindful of the time. But I think that we have been able to share pretty much all the information, and keep in mind that first is coming most likely in September, the first call, which is for professors, Canadian professors that could go to Brazil. And later in the year is going to be the ELAP scholarship that is for, in your case, your students could come to do research in our universities or do regular programs such as international exchange with the universities that you have agreements with. So that's pretty much what all the information that I wanted to share with you this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. There's a lot of opportunities to our research and our students to connect with Canadian universities. Thank you very much for sharing all this information with us. Of course, our company will receive the calls when they will be open in September and January. And of course, we will share with our community. This meeting is just to people know what the opportunities that is coming, right? And thank you very much. And para os nossos professores, para quem está nos assistindo, então, todas as dúvidas podem ser enviadas para o cane.usp.br. As dúvidas dessa chamada dos professores, né, docentes canadenses virem para o Brasil, quanto à chamada futura que vai ser para os alunos de graduação, pós-graduação, que terem oportunidade de tempo no Canadá. Eu agradeço imensamente o Rodrigo, a audiência de vocês, e podemos voltar. Thank you, Rodrigo, again. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon. Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope that everyone is going to be motivated to start making those connections. And as I said, we can all, of course, facilitate those connections as well. So have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.